Hey, you're listening to Don't Lie to Your Life Coach podcast with Kim Arrington. I'm Kim Arrington. I'm a life coach, a weight loss coach, an author, and a badass passionate about helping you connect back to your most authentic self. Join me here each week so I can coach you on how to think all those juicy thoughts that get you feeling your absolute best and taking some big ass action. Coaching has changed my life, and it can change your life too. I'm here to give you real life solutions to create a life you'll love. Because the truth is, boo, you ain't just got problems, you got options. Hey, happy 50th episode. Hey, y'all. It is the 50th episode. It's the 50th episode. Yes, I'm proud of myself. Yes, I'm proud of you as a listener who has stuck in here with me. And yes, sis is going to share some stats that tell you how awesome I am, okay? Because to reach 50 episodes is a labor of love. It is a labor of love. And so funny. This guy who wanted to date me and I didn't want to date him. I went out with him a few times and this is years ago. I don't even know, let's just say 2000-ish something. Anyway, I went out with this guy. He had liked me in high school. We connected after, college and everything in our adulthood. I guess, I was in my 30s, maybe 29, maybe 30-ish. I don't know. Anyway, I just told him I wasn't interested in him because he and this is the reason why I wasn't interested in him, because I wasn't interested in him, but he kind of had a chip on his shoulder. I don't know if you all ever have reconnected with someone who you didn't give a chance and they were really excited about you. And then you're like, okay, well, I'll give this person a chance to see how I feel about them, but they have the chip on their shoulder because you didn't like them back then. That's what I perceived. And so he was so funny when I told him, I was like, look, you're a nice guy. I'm not interested. I guess it was a double rejection. I don't know. But he said this to me, don't buy tickets on yourself. And I was like, the hell does that mean? But because I love words so much, this is back when I was doing music, I almost wrote a song about it, right? And I remember now because it happened before I went on my tour to Europe. And not right before, but it's sometime before then, because I was thinking about writing that song when I was over in London. And so I was like, what the hell does that mean? And I just scoured it and I kept asking people. And a guy I met in London, and we just having a random conversation. And I was like, what do you think this means? And the guy was like, well, I think it's kind of like, don't think you're all that. And I kind of already knew that, but I just I was like doing, I think, qualitative research around like, what did people think it meant? And so thank you for that, dude of yesteryear of that, don't buy tickets on myself, but bitch, I'm buying tickets on myself right now. Okay. 50 episodes. I'm going to give y'all some numbers. Y'all, there are 2.5 million podcasts on Apple Podcast. Okay, that's just one of the digital places networks you can listen, okay? Only 4,500,000 of those are active. So 450,000, I was like 45,000, that sounded so weird to me. 450,000 are active, okay? And that means most of the podcasts are not active, right? And only 26% of those podcasts have 11 or more episodes. I went looking to see about podcasts that have 50 episodes. It is so rare that I could not find data anywhere, okay? So it's a big damn deal. It's a big damn deal. It's a big damn deal. You've been on this journey with me, and I want to just thank you so much. But this is how influential podcasts are. Now, it's funny. In 1999, 2000, I took a class about podcasting and no one listened to podcasts, okay? Think about that. Now, there weren't even smartphones back then in 2000, okay? So now 73% of people listen to podcasts on their mobile devices, and 62% of Americans over 12 listen to podcasts. And on average, people listen to 8 podcasts a week. That's staggering. All right. 74% of those people listen to learn something new. So I gave you all those stats. I actually love numbers. I love stats. The reason why is that it's so important that you are learning you're new here, that you're coming to get your self-development, your personal development, that you're trusting me on that journey. And I appreciate it. So, yo, kid, I bought tickets on myself. And the other big point I want to give you before we get into the episode is, this is my creative outlet. Like, I am always going to be an artist. And another podcaster helped me really nail that and be like, this is your creative outlet, because podcasting actually brings together multiple artistic forms. And for me, who I am a performer and I am a teacher, and I get to be silly and I get to impart knowledge. It's really the best of both worlds. So thank you so much for listening. The 52nd episode is going to be coming, and I'm just going to give you a little teaser on that. That's all about, I've got my hope back. That I posed the question a year ago when it comes to the 52nd podcast of, I just want my hope back. Well, I've got it back, and I want to talk to you about that and help you. And the happiness ceiling, do you have a happiness ceiling, is part of what's helped me to get my hope back. And I really feel like the last 90 to 120 days, last 3 to 4 months, is when this came to me so powerfully that I believe there was a limit on my happiness. And I thought it was safe for me to think of happiness and that I had enough. But in reality, I'm freedom seeking, and I need to know that what is possible for me is limitless, and that I can still also feel very comfortable with having enough. So the happiness ceiling is something I want you to think about. So let me just define it for you first. Like, I want you to think about, if you feel like you should just be grateful for what you have and you should not want more. So like, in particular, women over 40, if you have a career that you love, but you haven't quite found the love that you would like, well, I should just be happy I have the career and I could live without the love. That is a happiness ceiling. It is possible, regardless of what the stats and the news and everybody else, your grandma and everybody says, it is possible for you to have a career you love, for you to have family if you choose that route for you, whether it is family that you have biologically or a family that found family that comes to you, or you go seeking that, right? Or love, that you have a partner in a way that works for you, that is possible. That you have the amount of abundance or the money that you want, that is possible. Okay, so a happiness ceiling basically is, you decide you should just be glad with what you have and you shouldn't want more. And I think how some of this has come about is that for so many of us who were on an ambitious route, or we were climbers, the going for more exhausted us and made us feel terrible. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you realizing that you don't just have to be happy with your little plot of earth, that you want to acquire the adjacent plot of earth because that makes you feel good too, but that you don't have to kick your own ass, beat yourself up, uh, make your burn out or be exhausted to get to that level. The happiness ceiling actually allows you, like letting go of that allows you to do things like redefine yourself, to feel more comfortable in your skin, to decide you're going to play by your rules. And like, if your rule is, I just want to be, I just finished The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Miss Maisel, however you feel about it, her love of her life was her career. And if you can reconcile that and that's great for you, that's fine. It's just the reality that you can have whatever the all is that you want, which for some of us feels like such a dangerous message, because when we were empowering people, we're like, no, no, don't go for it all. Well, you can go for it all without steamrolling yourself into exhaustion. And that's what letting go of that ceiling is. Because for someone like me, at first I found some relief in realizing, like, I don't gotta like try to kill myself. I'm sorry to use that reference, but that's what came to my mind, to try to get to a next level. And literally, I mean, literally run myself into sickness and, all in disrepair, that I could just accept where I was. Well, part of accepting with you where you are and who you are is understanding what more you want to become. Okay. That's my belief. Okay. So do you have a happiness ceiling? Do you think that the current happiness like I should just be happy with this 2.5 kids, with this picket fence, with this house? Like, what else is there for you? And I want to talk to you. This is such a personal journey for me, because I didn't even know. And I want to make sure you understand this. I didn't even know I had a happiness ceiling. No one looking at me would have thought I had a happiness ceiling, but that goes back to that. I just want my hope back of episode 1. Like, why the hell don't I feel connected to myself, connected to my life, connected to the people in my life? What the hell is happening? Like, why I have this career that I like, but I'm not going to a next level, but it's not making me happy. What is happening? Well, it was a happiness ceiling. I literally would not allow myself to go to the next level because, and I'm going to tell you, Gay Hendricks, the author Gay Hendricks, calls these upper limits. And I think the seminal work on realizing you have a happiness ceiling, he calls it an upper limit, and is his book, The Big Leap. I think The Big Leap does better than any other book that I've ever read to define what an upper limit is and to help you inch your way through it. I was listening to that book and I about fell over on my walk because I was like, this is it. I cried, I journaled. Gay Hendricks has a bunch of questions in it to ask yourself. And I was like, oh shit, this is me. And so I'm going to take you through this. I am going to cheat sheet you for a minute and tell you one of the biggest things that I recognize as a life coach, as someone seen as being fairly healthy and happy. I realized my emotional maturity was not where I wanted it to be. So that's going to be one of I've got 3 for y'all, 3 for you. Just 3 things to think about, 3 big rocks of your happiness ceiling. And I want to talk to you too about, before we even get into this, about changing, because this happened to me and I did not know what was going on. So sometimes when you change, the pendulum swings over to the other extreme. Okay. And if there's a such thing as human nature, I actually think this is it, because I think human beings, when they make a change, and remember you all, change is also a physiological, biological process, which basically means when you're changing, your brain is literally trying to make do with the new information that you have. And it is a hard process because your brain thrives on you doing the same thing over and over. As a matter of fact, it sends up chemical signals for you to handle things the right way. And not to get lost in the sauce, but let's do it. What we call a feeling is literally a physical feeling. It's a vibration. It is a physical sensation in our body. And so that means if it's a physical sensation in our body to an emotional trigger, that there could be 100 processes happening behind the scenes. So what's the point I'm trying to make in this? What I'm trying to say is that when you change, it is one of the most difficult biological, the most difficult brain-based, the most difficult body-based thing you can do. And that's why it's so dynamic, but it comes in often swinging all the way to the left. I see this with y'all all the time, especially with weight. I'm going to lose weight and cut out all sugar, all carbs, all like fried food, everything. I'm just going to be plant-based. That's you swinging all the way to the, the left, right? And then like, if you decide you like that life, you stay that way. And some people do, right? But then most of you swing all the way back to the right, which is how you were eating before. I think there's the mellow of the middle, okay? The mellow of the middle where, and this is how I teach weight loss, right? If you're interested, go to kimarrington.com/weight loss. The program will be out in the summer of 2023. I don't know when you'll get this episode, but the middle means that I can be plant-based when I want. I can have birthday cake when I want, but there's something inside of me that allows me to take it at a pace and in a way that isn't so swinging all this far this way and swinging all this far back the other way, okay? That's the thing about change. We don't really do that. We go to extremes. And if you want me to truly tell you like what the way to handle that is me telling you try to be more mellow in your change. No, you can't. That's almost going against how your brain is and your human nature, unless you have someone guiding you through the process. Hello, a coach, a therapist, but who can see it from different standards. But what I want to tell you is be patient with yourself if you swing all the way to the extreme. And be patient with yourself if you go all the way back to the other side of the extreme. If you stick with it, you can get to the mellow of the middle. The mellow of the middle, where you aren't so diehard about having to be extreme on either end. You're in the middle of that. Okay. That's what it is. So, but be patient with yourself and other people when they're driving you crazy, because, and I can be people. I've gotten some new information and all I want to do is talk about it. All I want to do, everything is, or when you meet somebody new, all you want to do is talk about them. And then something happens and you swing to the, I can't stand them, or I can't believe this didn't work this time. If you stick with the situation, there is a middle that's available. Okay. So let's get going. The first thing that I think was a happiness ceiling for me and a happiness ceiling for a lot of people is their definition of themselves. Okay. You have a happiness ceiling because you're defining yourself way too literally. I'm a person who just does this. I'm a person who just does that. But like, where are the shades of gray, dude? Like, you're either a black or you're white. I got a Michael Jackson video reference. No, like there's a shade of gray. I think I was kind of saying that with the mellow of the middle. Like when you are beginning to look at who you are, who you want to be, and midlife is a huge time to do that. You are going to do that pendulum, like I said, that back and forth, right? But somewhere, if you stick with it, I believe the middle is often remembering who we are. So in my weight loss program, which is now, I can give you a name, it's called Half-Life Weight Loss, and it's for women over 40. The thing about what I teach you is something that came to me from Danielle Leslie, and I kind of gave it a name, the DCR method, which is you discover yourself, and discovering is in quotes because people actually tell you who you are when you are a child. And you do things because you know that mom was a teacher and you're going to be a teacher because that makes her happy. Like you almost are doing stuff for approval and validation. You think it's you, but people have kind of told you who you are. And if you like something or you are something that people don't want, then you will hide that because the idea of coming out as that thing, I use coming out on purpose, as that thing will have consequences. And because our brains are wired to be in the tribe, our biggest fear is being alone, of being abandoned, of being kicked out of that tribe. So you will push all that down. Midlife, that shit comes up like a, you know how, did y'all ever do the school project with the volcano with the baking soda and vinegar and that thing spews up? That's your lava. The lava of midlife is coming up, baby. You cannot force, us humans can do a lot. We cannot force a volcano to not erupt. Hello. Okay. So there's that. You are discovering yourself. That's when people have told you who you are, the tribe, your religion, like your gender, like your community has told you, race, and I could go on and on. Then you scoot over to the second part of that is you creating yourself. So get it. Like you are creating yourself on the false premise. Some of it's false, some of it might be true, of who you've been told you are. So you create yourself in that vision of, I'm a person who likes to, play golf, but you really hate playing golf. Or my family owns a funeral, services, and I've got to take over the family business. Like you then swing to the, I've created myself, and you feel empowered, like I've gotten all the things, the trappings. I went to college, or I went to, learned a specialized training program. And then I, got the house and got married, and you like created yourself based off of this premise of who you thought you were. Midlife comes through like the midlife volcano. Okay. And you erupt into who you actually, and this is the third part, is you remember yourself. Oh, I remember that I'm a person who, like, I'll give you an example. I spent a lot of time using money to feel better about myself by overspending. But when the volcano of midlife happened and I went deep into learning about money, I remembered I love being frugal. Like when I was a kid, I was looking for a deal. I loved saving my money. I loved having a job. I loved like enjoying what I had, but like laughing with a friend or going into the woods or reading a book, getting a book from the library. So I began to remember who I was and learn about money, and overspending fell away because overspending was what I learned. And then who I created myself to be. Oh, I'm a person who, I remember saying this in an episode, I love my Europeans, Louis, see, this is why I can't even think of Fendi. Like I love my Europeans. Now I would not buy a luxury bag because that's not who I really, really am. Now y'all gonna still see me carry them because they've been bought. But the point is just that I had to look at who I created myself to be based off of who I discovered I was, but I really remembered who I was, DCR method. All right, anyway, self-definition, you need a cure, you need something curative. And to me, what's curative is penciling and paper in it, or fingers to laptop in it. Like really, I would put a question on the top of my page in a Google Doc, and I would turn that baby over, asking myself about, is this really me? Or is this who I thought I was supposed to be? Was I told to be that, discovered? Did I create myself to be that? Or let me remember who I am. Like, who am I really? And I did that, y'all. I've been scribing, called it 100 days of scribing for, it's like today is day 91, where there's like a question or two or three on top of the page every day. And I've just been like turning it over. I had to go back and apologize to some folks. I had to like have conversations with friends and a therapist and like really get into that self-definition. So who you are really is someone, first of all, who evolves over time, right? But in midlife, we often come to a place where who we created ourselves to be becomes so painful that we're willing to do the work to remember who we truly are. Okay. So journaling has been huge for me. I want you to have, that's like getting what is in my head out on paper to see if I agree with it. Is it really true? Going back to that and saying, no, I think what was really coming out was the voice of my dad, the voice of my mom, the voice of my third grade teacher. Like that has been curative to me. So I want you all to think about what you think about, like who you are. It seems like such a big question, but it's not a big question if you break it into little pieces. What do I like? What do I not like? Like you're not really your behavior. Look at me working this out in front of you all. You're not really your likes and your dislikes, but your likes and your dislikes can tell you about your life themes, which are actually who you are. So I'll give you an example. I love listening to books, right? And listening to books shows me part of who I am, which is I need to have an intellectual life. Like I would never be okay just being, oh, I can't say just being, y'all are gonna have a fit if I say that. Okay, I need to be able to have conversation. I'm not like with my partner, with my husband, with my other partners in life, my friends, like I need to go to universities and see things. I need to go see art made by people who were not formally trained and talk to older folks and talk to people in all walks of life. I need a rich intellectual life. So the books and my love of documentary help to point to the self-definition of one of my needs is to be intellectually stimulated. And how I can be responsible for that is I can tell people in my life I need that. So they may invite me to go to see something or do something or view something. And then also I have the responsibility of doing that for myself or calling up a nerdy friend and saying, hey, let's go on a hike and let's talk about da, 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 da. So that's what I want you to think about is how are you defining yourself? You're defining yourself too literally, like meaning that I can only be a person who, and you fill in the blank. I'm a person who does this. I was just talking to a friend yesterday and he was talking about wanting to know more about God. And I was telling him a little bit about my beliefs and I recommended a book to him. I'm not going to share it here. But it was a book for him that was really different than how he thought. He was raised a Baptist, minister's kid. And it was talking about Eastern philosophy and religion. And he was like, wow, that's really interesting. So if his definition of himself is I only think about Christianity, I only think about, how I've been raised, but because he's looking for his pathway to God, he's like, I think I want to be open to that. That's what I'm talking about, is allowing in for new information that isn't exactly what you think it would be. And then you get to decide. I told him, like, you don't got to believe this, but you know that it's out here and you can put it up against how you're feeling and see if this answers a question or doesn't. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's move on to the next big rock. And I talked a little bit about this earlier, about what is possible for you. We just have been told repeatedly. So first we were told we have to go after it all. Then we're told we can't have it all. It's kind of like what has happened with, I'm going to use eggs for an example, like the actual food. Well, you were told eggs were terrible for your cholesterol, and then you were told eggs are essential for good health. And so, where's the truth? Where's the lie? I mean, the fact is that you can have what you want: success, abundance, true love, creativity. But is it going to come with work? Uh-huh, 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 personal work, uh-huh, 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 collective work, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. See, the problem is, I'm going to use love as an example. We are sold a fantasy island tale, Hans Christian Andersen version of love, um, where it's really Grimm's tales, where you meet a person, you meet this idealized person who can do no wrong. You put them on a pedestal. They are different than everybody else. Here's what you're not told about love. You're not told that true love actually shows you to your triggers, your emotional triggers, to your unhealed wounds. It actually shows you the parts of yourself, your shadow, things you're not happy and proud of, your shame. And that eventually the person you idealize, you will stick your finger out, your little paw out, and you will blame them for the way you feel, which is terrible, when all they are doing is revealing to you places to heal. That is true love. You are not told that. True love is going to show you your wounds, and you're going to do the same thing to that other person. You're going to show them their wounds, their places they're unhealed. And listen, so much of that is from your primary, your home of origin, where you grew up, going back to that, who you were told you were, how you were told you had to be, what you were told you had to do. And you are going to come together with a person from different conditionings, different conditions, raised differently, who's going to point to you and be like, no, you don't. Or they're going to potentially have qualities of that parent that was difficult for you, and you can recast yourself as the hero in that story. True love is not meant to make you feel comfortable all the time. It is going to challenge the fuck out of you. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't stay in a bad relationship. So there's the nuance. The nuance is choosing a person who you all can heal together, but it takes sometimes support from a therapist or a coach or a bud who's been through it to help you through that bump in that relationship, because we don't speak the same relationship languages. And so the truth about true love is, this person is showing these wounds to me, and they're willing to do the work with you, and you're willing to do the work with them collectively, both of you all together and individually, to be able to get to the healing of you by yourself and you all together and them by themselves. It's 3 healings for the price of a lot. They heal, you heal, the union heals. That is what you're not told, what is possible. And not only you're not told what is possible, your happiness ceiling is, I don't know what's possible, but also your happiness ceiling is it has to look a certain way. It has to come in a certain package. It has to feel a certain way. Your cure is you gonna work. If you want the life you want, you're gonna work, but there is a type of work that isn't work. It looks like work, but it's really dysfunction. And that's the hard part, is discerning that. And I can't do that for you on a podcast, y'all. You'd have to be my client, or you'd have to be someone's client, or a book, or a support group, or a YouTube channel that you're dedicated to, or that's the thing. I cannot answer that for you. And even if you're my client, I cannot answer that for you. I lead you through a process where you answer that for yourself. Remember, I'm the guide showing you where the waterfall's over here and, snake bite cord is over here. Okay. Your happiness ceiling is you are not sure what's possible anymore, and it's making you miserable, and you want something different in your life, but you're not willing to access the work to what is possible. And I'm telling you, it is possible to have it all. How that looks at the end and the beginning, the middle, and the end is going to be vastly different. Yeah. All right, the third one. This has been the bedrock, the zenith, I was going to say the Pinterest. No, the pinnacle for me, emotional maturity. Y'all, your happiness ceiling is you're not as mature as you think. You absolutely are not as mature as you think. Self-righteous, how mature you are. Blaming other people for not being on your level. You're not as mature as you think, because none of us are. Maturity takes concerted, consistent work and looking at trauma and healing by bit. And this was it for me. This was it. Okay. I was not as emotionally mature as I thought. The Taylor Swift song, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me." That was me. I will speak very general terms about the true love situation and a relationship. Relationships are going to have their bumps, but your willingness to look at how your behavior is affecting you is the difference in between you always pointing a finger to shame, blame someone, when the truth is your resentment for how you've been triggered in this particular relationship, which is usually a primary relationship, and you going to ancient coping mechanisms or ancient ways that you used to deal with, like how you had to survive, maybe growing up in your house, is going to come back up in that primary true love relationship. And it's going to make you so angry that you're going to blame the other person instead of saying, wait a minute, hold up. I'm the problem. I'm the toxic one. I need to look at my role in all of this. That is what happened to me. So we often do the work to grow ourselves up. I want you all to think about something really majorly happening. And I'll use my dad being killed when I was, sorry, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about death. My dad being killed in a car accident with a drunk driver when I was 10. In some ways, I was emotionally stuck at 10. And I did a lot of self-development work to grow myself up to a teenager. So a teenager, think about a teenager. They know everything. They're stubborn. Sorry, y'all, if you're teen lovers, but this is what they like. I always use this as an example. A 14-year-old in the 1800s, a white 14-year-old, would be married and could be running a household and could have had children, and midlife in the 1800s might have been 33. Don't quote me on that. You know what I'm saying? So We have some of that in our ancient programming, right? And so if you think about it like this, growing yourself up to a teenager is, and a lot of people do this, and they don't know this, there's not as much about the inner teenager as it is about the inner child. Because when you listen to your inner child and understand what the inner child needs, and then you respond, you will go through a process where you often go to the inner teenager. The inner teenager is pissed off. They had to go through this. They got their hand on their hip. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to take care of me, only my desires all the time. The inner teenager is only wanting to co-regulate, like, or deal with people who are also inner teenagers. And so that's what I began to see, is like the inner child work had been done, but now the inner teen was here. And then I had to listen to the inner teen, and then I get to grow myself up emotionally to a person who is the adult, the young adult, or going into adulthood. So this was startling to me. It was startling to me. I'm going to do an episode on emotional maturity. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the inner teen. And you have to also come into this awareness. Like I always say, feel your feelings, but sometimes you have to like validate. You only knew what you knew. You could only do what you did. And when you get this awareness, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful this awareness has come, even though it makes me feel it's so difficult. It's so difficult, right? Because this is what healing is. So first of all, healing is not constant. It's not like if you have grown yourself up by healing your inner child, it's not like your inner child was always responding to everything, right? It's not like your inner teenager is always responding. But when you are scared, when you are triggered, when you are bothered, when you are resentful, that's when the unmet needs of the inner child and the unmet needs of the inner teenager come up. That's what I'm talking about. You're lovely until someone pushes all the right buttons in the right combination of the safe, and then you are angry, or you pull all the way away. You're avoidant, which was what my inner teenager did, was it withdrew. I've got to go inside and keep myself protected. I've got to do it all for myself. What do you mean other people can meet my needs? What do you mean? What needs? Like, I take care of myself. That's what the inner teenager does. And secretly is raging that no one is coming to save them. Okay. I want to talk to you. I want to close this episode. This is probably going to be a long one. I want to close this episode on, I'm going to do an episode about the hierarchy of competence, because this is running long. And that's more about how we change. So I'm not going to talk about that. This is a mental note for me, y'all. But I want to talk to you about why it's worth it to look at your happiness ceiling and break through that glass ceiling, okay? You are not going to be able to access all of who you are if you don't question your limits and your boundaries. If you don't ask yourself, this is something I ask, and I get my clients to ask themselves all the time, is that really true? Like, I'll be like, for real? Is that really it? If you aren't willing to look at a principle you had, like, principles are the things that are supposed to be unchanging, and say, I don't believe that way anymore, and I actually think it's getting in the way. Like, almost every year, you've got to have a belief review. Like, do I really believe this still? Maybe I'll read a book that tells the exact opposite of that to see if I really truly feel that way, or if that is just the discovered me versus the remembered who I really am me. I don't know if you can recognize all the simple pleasures, and there are so many of them. Yesterday, for me, it was the breeze, and I actually do recognize at least one every day. If you aren't willing to ask yourself, have I made this all I can have? That's what a happiness ceiling is. I've decided this is all I can have, so this is all I'm going for. You are expansive. Walt Whitman says, you contain multitudes. And so even the recognition that you are expansive does not have to be a curse. It's not a ball and a chain that you're dragging around. It is your ultimate guide to freedom. Like, I can make a decision to have an experience, to have this thing happen, and then I can decide to work to actively healing this, because I really believe part of what you have to do to get to your happiness ceiling is like list your 3 biggest issues and really get to the work of one by one healing them. Because when you heal one issue, then you have the confidence, because confidence comes from doing, to put that same kind of wisdom to the other issue. And then the other issue, oh my God, you could actually in this life handle your biggest issue. Yeah, it's possible. If you pull up that happiness ceiling and push it up and say, this is what happiness looked like for me in 2022, but happiness in 2023 is this. And I think beyond it could be this. Okay. We're going to keep at this. This podcast has been a weekly way to give to myself and you all, but it's also been something that I have to show up for. And that has helped me. Just imagine me on my back, pushing up the happiness ceiling with my arms and my legs. This podcast has helped to enlarge my community, enlarge my reach of my message, enlarge my thinking, come back, because I will tell you this, and I'm going to get more into this in episode 52. I had someone, I was walking with my friend Roz. I had been to Colorado, and she asked me such an amazing question, like, how do you think you're going to change? How do you think the podcast is going to change? And I was like, oh, you mean like in a year? And she was absolutely right. It did. It absolutely did. And I'm so excited to bring that to you. Y'all, asking yourself, are you happy? What makes you happy today? Is that really true? Is that really true? Asking again, is that really true? And then really developing, going back to look at what used to make you happy. And if that still does, and if I need to bring that in, that is life-changing stuff. Okay. All right, y'all. I know this was a long one, but I had a lot to say. I'm stepping out the pulpit. All right, y'all have a good one. Join me here next week. Love you, mean it. Are you feeling what you just heard? Good. Repeat after me. You don't have to figure it out on your own again anymore. I'm here to help. Head over to kimarrington.com and download my free video series dedicated to getting you feeling your best right now. Look around, there's some good stuff waiting on you. Got questions? Well, we're always talking on the socials, so find me on YouTube, Insta, and the book. Don't be shy, y'all. Go listen to another episode or join me here the same time next week. Finally, don't keep good shit to yourself. Share this with a homie that could use some help too. Remember, we're not lying to ourselves anymore. We're not lying to our doctors. And you damn sure don't lie to your life coach.